HanselMinutes.com, it's Hansel Minutes, a weekly discussion with web developer and technologist Scott Hanselman, hosted by Carl Franklin. This is Lawrence Ryan announcing show number 98, recorded live Tuesday, January 22nd, 2008. Support for Hansel Minutes is provided by Telerik RAD Controls, the most comprehensive suite of components for Windows Forms and ASP.NET web applications. Online at www.telerik.com. In this episode, Scott talks with his dad, David Hanselman, about the trials and tribulations of raising a computer person.
Hi, this is Scott Hanselman, and this is another episode of Hansel Minutes, and I'm sitting here with my dad.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Dad. I thought it would be cool to have you on the show, and I know you think it's weird. I mean, you kind of got this look on your face like, and we're talking about what? And
computers? What are computers? Yeah, it's a little uneasy, but we can handle it.
We can handle it. So, I have this, this is a podcast, right? So
right.
People will get this on their iPod automatically.
iPod, is that anything like an 8-track?
Yeah. You know
what an
iPod is.
Yes, I do.
But they're going to get it automatically. It's just like a subscription. So it's like a radio show, except there's no radio. And, well, arguably there's not even a show at this point, right? But
it's early yet.
Who knows? But, I thought it'd be interesting to just talk to you and talk about, how hard it was to put up with me growing up and, with my brother, and what was it different to raise a geek and whatnot. But so you were a fireman for 30?
I was a firefighter for 30 years.
Okay,
with Portland.
So for the listeners that are from countries that are not the U.S., there's a lot of wood houses in the U.S.
Yeah, most of the homes in the Northwest are built out of wood, and so consequently, firefighters are needed, and they are looked upon favorably by the public for the most part. And I was fortunate enough to work for the City of Portland Fire Department from the early 70s up until 2002. And I retired there after 30 years.
Now, firefighters, they don't just save buildings from fires, but they also they save people. Like if you have a heart attack in the U.S., you'll call a firefighter. Right.
The 911 system, pretty much nationwide, and I think it's starting even internationally. We'll bring a fire department for a medical emergency or for fires or any kind of an emergency that's that you need help with. I was a paramedic for the last 15 years, and was a lieutenant in charge of a crew. And we would respond with the fire engine, and 4 people and all our medical equipment and our firefighting equipment. And we would, be mobile enough with the advent of an improvement of radios. The communication system allowed us to go pretty well anywhere we were needed. And so, that's how I spent my 30 years.
So at the beginning, this is considered a pretty decent job, right? In the U.S.
It's a good job, you bet. You're not going to get rich, but it was certainly, a job that you can, it's a lifestyle. It's choices you make. I could have made more money probably in the private sector, but I grew up in an era of security being important. My mother raised 3 of us by herself after my dad died when we were quite young, and so security was always something that we were very aware of, or the lack of security. And so when I had a chance to get with the fire department, it was a choice that I didn't know what I was getting into, but I'm certainly glad I got there.
But when you met Mom, you were bagging groceries.
When I met your mother, I was still bagging groceries and going to school part-time.
Yeah.
And I say bagging groceries. By then I think I was third man at a Thriftway store or something like that. And back then, actually, when I went in the fire department, I had to take a pay cut from being a grocery clerk. I had better benefits. I had better monthly salary being a grocery clerk. But within a period of a year, once I came on full time with the fire department, it balanced, and then over the years, of course, surpassed what the grocery clerks make.
Now, even then, I remember growing up that you had other jobs. You would always do something on the side. Was that because you were bored, or did we needed the money? I mean, I don't know. I was 5, so.
Well, I started working a second job right out as soon as I got out of training with the fire department because it didn't pay that much, and I was, we were a young married couple. My wife had worked before with the gas company, but then when you came along, we made a conscious choice to have a parent at home. We both came from single parent scenarios, so the idea of having someone at home was real important to both of us. And so we made a conscious choice that I would work a second job and she would stay home and be a parent and, be mother and father actually for a while there. And so I was driving oil truck during the winter. I'd lay asphalt during the summer. I did handyman work, for a couple of different guys I knew had businesses, repair businesses. We also did what they call millwork, going into new construction and casing out windows and putting in doors and things like that. So I kept busy for I was working 2 jobs for probably 10 to 15 years. And then finally, when I got promoted to lieutenant and things started taking shape a little better, we decided we'll live off the one salary.
And when was the first time that this will sound like a weird segue, but I'm going somewhere with this. When was the first time you saw a computer or even thought about that term and the idea of technology as opposed to just typewriters and telefax machines?
I have vivid memories of typewriters. Of the when I first came in the fire department, we used an old like a pegboard system with little plugs that it was a teletype. It was like an old teletype from the 30s, and that is how they communicated, and telephone, hardwired telephone. There was one heavy, maybe 5-pound 2-way radio that was carried by each officer on each fire engine. There were no computers, none at all in the Bureau, at least not at the stations.
Right.
Not that the individual fire companies dealt with. It was strictly...
No mainframes?
No, the mainframe was a wooden pegboard with plugs
like a cribbage board, but on the wall.
Yeah, on the wall, like a cribbage board or a Parcheesi board, and numbers that related to the numbers of the fire engines. And we had codes, like a teletype code, telegraph code, that they would punch over this system. And then we would, from that knowledge and from learning that code, we would put these different companies into the appropriate plugs, if you will, and we'd know that they were in service or out of service, they were available or not available, and then know whether we would be closer to taking the next run and all. That and hardwired telephone.
Oh, so you're getting this feed. You're getting this feed, this teletype feed, and you go, it's a 529, and I got to go up on the board, and some guy updates that.
There was always someone monitoring the board and the teletype. So the board was the
big screen.
That was the big screen. That was the mainframe, if you will, for that fire station back in 71, 72.
And when you get a come back from a fire, you type it up in a report with a typewriter.
Typewriter. Oh yeah. Everybody had big Smith Coronas with that could handle legal size paper. I mean, it was big electric typewriters, but they were electric.
Now, my younger brother, Josh, is a fireman, and firefighter. We don't say fireman.
Oh no, you're firefighters.
There's
nowadays.
women firefighters.
There are women firefighters out there,
and on his crew, there's a woman firefighter. So he types it into some Windows application, and it's all.
Yeah, I believe it's a Windows application, and they
goes into
have
some central database.
What they call MDTs, mobile data terminals. They have them in each fire engine in front of the officer. They've got a touch screen. They have a keyboard. They have different methods or different ways that they can do it. And then, of course, when they can communicate via that and get information regarding residences or commercial buildings that they're responding to, they can just type in an address and they can tell you whether there's hazardous materials there or what other things they need to be aware of before they go in.
So I remember when I think the first computer I saw was some kind of Apple computer, 4th grade, 5th grade, somewhere in there, when I was kind of I was going to say rambunctious child, but I was kind of...
You think?
Thank you, Dad.
Yeah, you were a handful.
Okay, a handful. Is that what they say now?
Well, that's being nice. We are on the air, right?
Yes, we are. We are on the air.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dad.
You were a handful. You were precocious. That's another adjective that was used back then. Rambunctious.
I guess I would have been on Ritalin if this was the 90s.
Yeah, if they'd had it, you would have been on it probably.
Okay. But this is the 70s we're talking about.
This is the early 70s, and but your mother and I both, I mean, there were people who suggested that we consider, medicating you, if you will.
Okay.
But that option didn't appeal to us really. We felt that, well, seriously, I'm dead serious.
This is news. I
we
appreciate
felt that, as I remember it, now your mother may remember it differently.
Sure. We'll have her on next year.
Yeah, I'm told I have selective memory, so I have no idea whether this is the way I remember it.
Okay. It's been 30 years.
There was, really. There were times when they suggested that we consider medication, and we didn't feel it was the way to go. We felt that if you were kept busy, kept stimulated, that would temper the whole situation down a little bit.
Okay.
And so every effort was made by your mother primarily because she was the main caregiver with me working so much to keep you occupied, stimulated, busy. And then when you basically beat her down, we said, okay, what do we got to do now? So no, you were in daycare at a very early age back when it wasn't fashionable to put kids in daycare when they were 2 years old. And you were reading when you were some like ridiculous age of 3 or something like that. You were reading. And so it was like, we got to keep this guy busy. And by grade school, after you destroyed 2 teachers, I think it was your 3rd or 4th grade teacher that finally knew how to handle you and just said, this is what we need to do. This is a thought. What do you think?
Yeah.
And that's when computers came into play.
Well, I remember that this was kind of back when the school districts were a little more involved, and I seem to remember and this may be me remembering legend, but I remember the principal, my teacher, and then possibly a superintendent getting involved.
An advisor, I think it was.
To this, somebody high up who could say, we've got this $2,500, $2,000, $3,000 is a heck of a lot of money now, but it's a huge amount of money
it was a lot
in the
of
70s.
Money. Yeah. They had 1 or 2 computers at the school at the time, I think. At the whole school.
Yeah,
it was the school district was just starting to get into computers. They were dealing with, I believe, primarily Apple at the time.
Uh-huh.
And
it was heavy. I remember that.
It was big. It was heavy. That's why we used the truck.
Yeah. So we worked a deal out where we would take the truck, sneak the computer out, kind of quote unquote sneak, because we didn't want the other kids to be jealous.
Yeah, it was one of these things where we had to be subtle. We came in on Friday afternoons, backed the truck up to the door, and 2 or 3 trips from the room into the back of the truck, covered it with a tarp, and went home. And that kept you busy over the weekend. We had a computer that you were able to play around with, and you knew more about it than we just.
What do you think I was doing? 30 years later, do you have any idea what I was doing?
I didn't have a clue. I was cleaning up in my garage or in my shop, and as long as you were quiet, I was thrilled.
Did you ever sit down with me and have me show you what I was doing?
I'm sure I probably did, but refresh my memory. Like you said, it was 30 years ago.
Well, we used to get books. Like I still have one of these books that was called the. It's like a 1982. I'm looking over my bookshelf here. That was a book full of programs to type in to simulate the Olympics.
I remember.
It's all text-based.
Yeah.
So I had to type the program in,
Kept you busy.
Line 10, print. Welcome to the Olympics. Line 20, print.
Yeah.
And it would tell you things like you'd do the long jump. And it'd be you type in the angle and the speed, and it would let you know how far you jumped. No graphics at all. We're talking about basic.
Right. This was just basic. This was letters, if I remember, on a green screen, right?
Exactly. All text. It was called the basic language. That was the name of the
Was that still on the one we got from the school, or is this?
That's the one from the computer.
Okay.
And Visual Basic, which you know about because you've seen it on my blog a couple times. That's the kind of people are still using Basic. It's just it's different now. But the history is there.
Mm-hmm.
And then, if I remember correctly, this was a success.
Yeah, it seemed to. Well, you found a real niche. And the teachers at school were saying, "Hey, this whatever we were doing it right."
Mm-hmm.
And we were blessed with, you were blessed, and we all were, with some great teachers at Glen Haven School in Portland, Oregon, and they were just some real special people who would take you, laterally as well as vertically.
Three of the teachers you remember came to my wedding.
Oh yeah, no, I
20
know.
plus 25 years later.
Yeah, no, they were special people, and they were a large part of our family, and certainly made our life easier.
Are you implying they were my medication?
They were actually cheaper than the Ritalin was at the time. The market value for Ritalin was high then. But teachers, I was paying taxes anyway. By God, we got our tax dollars out of them.
Yeah, they were cool teachers.
There was a time, in fact,
some people have one in their lifetime. I had three.
You had three great teachers. Yeah, you had more than that even.
Yeah, but just thinking about first through eighth grade, there are three people who we still talk to now. One has passed away, but two we still are in communication with.
Yeah, no, it was. It helped your mother and I beyond compare. And then right behind you was your brother, who was equally curious.
Yeah.
But 100% different in many respects. And so we had two young boys less than 2 years apart.
Yeah.
And like so many parents are, both today and back then. First-time parents, new parents, have a couple handfuls that we're dealing with.
Yeah, every kid's a handful in their own way, I suppose.
Without a doubt. And so, yeah, we were a little stressed out, but it worked. And then they said, well, we're not going to be able to, you need to get him his own computer.
Yeah.
We can't be doing this every Friday, Monday through Friday. He still needs to keep busy on the evenings. Can you maybe get him a computer? And it was like, okay, well, how much is this going to cost?
Right, exactly.
And because, like I said, I was working 2 jobs.
I think you were doing the oil truck. You were fireman, and you were driving the oil truck around.
Yeah, we didn't have a lot of money. We made some life choices.
We ate every day, though.
We ate every day. We made some choices, life choices, and that involved me working 2 jobs, which was fine. But it was like the money was tight. So whatever we bought, we had to make sure that it was going to work. And your mom investigated it, just in depth as much as she could then, and made a lot of phone calls and talked with you, because you were cognizant of more things computer wise than she was and than we were. When she was working at the gas company, she was proficient in the 10 key.
Yeah, that was a big skill.
For those of you that don't know what the heck a 10 key is.
Oh, we got that on the side of the keyboard there.
Kind of like the side of your keyboard, but it's manual and it's not digital anything. They were spring-loaded buttons, and then you had a lever on the side that you pulled to tabulate it. So, but she was good at it.
Yeah.
And so she investigated and came up with the idea of getting a Commodore 64.
Uh-huh.
And it was like, then the next question was, where's the money going to come from? So
we sold the van.
We ended up selling a van. We had an old Ford van, and we sold that, bought the Commodore, and we figured, okay, if this doesn't work, at least let's get something out of this in a positive note for other people. So rather than to get a, quote, monitor, unquote, we got a television set.
You got a 13-inch TV set.
13-inch TV set. That
was that our first color TV at that point, or had we?
I think it was.
So then we had, if this computer thing doesn't work out, we can always use it as a TV.
At least the truck wasn't a total waste,
but seriously, as a 9 or, I don't know how old it was, 9 or 10 years old, when that happened, I remember the idea that this big blue, multi-ton truck van is now gone, replaced with this shoebox-sized box. And I remember
one box was replaced with another box.
But I remember there being some not trepidation, but there was this kind of like
resentment on my part. Yeah, you might have detected.
Okay,
a little
I was
going
to say buyer's remorse, but yeah, resentment.
There was a little resentment.
This thing is a van.
Yeah, I couldn't take the computer hunting and fishing. I couldn't sleep in the back of it. When I was fishing. So yeah, there was just a tad bit of resentment, but it passed. I think with your first paycheck.
So 20 short years later,
I'm over it. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's an interesting thing though, because you made a choice, a dramatic life choice. You got rid of your car, the car you fished.
Well, we had another vehicle, but we got rid of one of the vehicles in order to.
As a child, even then I realized that this was a big deal. This was the most valuable thing that we had in the house.
Material wise.
The 2 kids
were the most valuable thing we had in the house.
Apologies.
Material-wise, yes,
monetarily,
monetarily,
this was it's like $300.
Oh, it's more than that. Yeah.
Was it big? It was. I don't remember what the Commodore was back in the day, but it was a non-trivial amount of money.
I don't remember what the price was, to be honest with you.
But we went to Sears and we bought this Commodore, and then I started typing in programs with graphics, and then it got interesting. And then I remember this. Remember when I started the bulletin board? I was 14, and I said, "I'm going to start this bulletin board. I need you to give me another phone line." And remember,
my God, yeah.
Remember that? And I said, and you said, "Well, you're going to need to get a job." I was 14. I remember I went to
I don't remember that.
You wouldn't pay for the phone line. We're talking about a $40 a month phone line. Back when a hardwire, because I was living in the garage.
Yeah, right.
I was living in the garage.
Well, we had moved from Portland out to Beaverton at that point then.
And then I lived behind the garage in a little apartment behind the garage.
There was like a mother-in-law apartment behind the garage. And the house itself only had 2 bedrooms. Mm-hmm. So your brother lived in one of the had 1 bedroom, and then you were being the eldest, got the privilege or the,
to be sequestered to the back of the garage.
Isolated in the back of the garage where I could lock you back there, yes. Sure. Worked for me.
I wanted a phone line because I got this whole bulletin board thing. Okay. So I went and got a job as a stock boy at Nordstrom's.
That's right.
And I was 14. And then 15, I started a company. Remember, you helped me fill out the paperwork to get a corporation.
You got a corporation through the state on that one.
Yeah.
You got it licensed through the state or whatever.
And I was 15.
Registered through the state.
Yeah. I did the whole corporation division thing. And then I think at the height had a couple of phone lines going there, and I had people calling in on a subscription. 2 phone
lines, yeah. One was computer, one was phone.
Yeah, I ended up using them both actually for computers at the end there.
So we had at that point we had 3 phone lines into the house, 1 to the house, 2 to you.
Right, exactly.
So
then I had people calling in, playing games over the phone.
Well, see, being isolated where you were, I didn't know a lot of this stuff, and it's probably best that I didn't. Well, I don't even know whether your mom knew about some of the things.
We should probably make sure she doesn't listen to the podcast. But what was cool about this is that I thought you guys were really good about enabling me to do this stuff, but not in the writing a check. Hey kid, here's some money, go do your thing. When I said I wanted a phone line, you said, how are you going to pay for that? And when I wanted a computer, I think I bought a 486. You took me down to a little computer shop in downtown Portland. And it was $2,000. Remember that? I forget this guy's name.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about that.
We needed to pay for it. And at this point, I've got a little corporation. So you went and co-signed, and I thought this was so cool. My friends thought this was cool. I was 15, and you co-signed for a $2,000 loan for the greatest
put it in
computer.
In your name.
It's my name, though.
Yeah.
So I was building credit for the corporation, and it was also a deduction. And this is cool because
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah. Speaking of things you forgot about, one of the coolest things you ever did was after I got the corporation, I started doing the business, I started doing my own taxes. I was 15.
Did you ever save me any money doing taxes?
Well,
I want to know that.
Probably not. I got an American Express card, a corporate card, and I dropped it at school. And the principal found it. Remember that?
I'm trying to remember.
The principal found it and called you and started to kind of read you the riot act, like how does this boy have a corporate card for American Express, and children this age shouldn't have credit cards. Da, 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 da. You didn't know I had the card because I'm 15 at this point. I'm not supposed to have a credit card till I'm 18. I think someone may have accidentally put the wrong birthday on
Do you think?
On an application. And then what was so cool was that you were called to the principal's office. You came into school.
Was it me or was it your mother?
It was you, because I remember because you said you hadn't, this is the first year learning of this. And you said, my son manages his money better than I do, and I back him up 100% for having this card, and you completely shut her down. And then afterwards, you said, what are you doing with this freaking card? I want you to cut this thing, but you backed me up in front of the principal.
I'd forgotten about that.
Yeah, but it was cool because you didn't, I mean, the business was getting bigger than you had expected.
Well, you weren't making a bunch of money.
For maybe 15 years old.
For a 15-year-old kid back then, you were doing
large.
all right, I guess. I don't know. How much did you make back then?
When I was 15, I was pulling down $15,000 a year.
It was darn near more than I was making as a firefighter. See, that's why I had to work 2 jobs.
But that money, that was a big deal at the time, and that allowed me to buy a car and put money down for a house.
When you were older, yeah.
A couple of years later, I was thinking about that kind of stuff. But those kinds of things, when you were backing me up on things like, I wanted to buy a car. You said, well, I'll help you maintain it. I'll teach you how to change the oil, but I'm not going to give you the money for it.
Yeah.
But you enabled us in other ways. So speaking of enabling us, that with both Josh,
I've been called an enabler before, yeah.
in the best possible way. One of the things that you did with both Josh and I was that you're so good with your hands. You're always building stuff. You encouraged us to take things apart.
Yeah, and you did a few things over the years. I remember, yeah.
I remember taking apart the clock radios.
You still have a drill that a corded.
How did I get that drill?
Because I couldn't fix the damn thing. Or darn thing, rather. I couldn't fix it. I think.
So you had a drill that was broken.
I had a drill that was broken, and I tried to fix it or mess with it, and I thought, the heck with it. And I said, here, Scott, and I think you still have it now. And it's been probably 15, 20 years.
You said what?
I don't remember whether I can repeat what I said.
You said if you want this drill, you can have it, but you have to fix it.
Oh, okay. All right.
So then I took it apart.
And I know you fixed it.
Rewired the pistol, the push button, put it back together, and it worked. You couldn't believe it because you'd been working on it for a couple of days on and off trying to get this thing to work, and I just figured to toss it. And then I got to keep the drill. It was a nice drill at the time.
It was a good old Sears Craftsman, And
I still have that drill. It's in the garage.
Is it unused since in the last 20 years?
And I haven't turned it on. Turned it on since because I'm not known for being handy.
Well, but no, you're handy in your field, in your area of expertise.
Yeah.
Your brother can take a bicycle apart, blindfolded, and can do his firefighter thing, and when it comes to computers and software and programming, and
so far, I never thought it would happen that way, though.
Well, and I didn't know what was going to happen. I mean, and as a parent, and I know I can speak for your mother on this too. I mean, your biggest fear or your biggest want for your children is for them to be, 1, to be healthy, 2, to be productive and not in jail, not doing drugs and not in jail, not on the dole. Mm-hmm. And both you and your brother have, made your mother and I very, very proud.
I'm glad we've exceeded your expectation by not being
tickled. You're not a drag on me, It's probably the reverse is true more than anything else. No, we're all very fortunate. We are blessed that we've done as well as we've done, and we're not rich, but your mother and I are retired now and enjoying grandchildren, and you're 2 lovely boys, and Joshua's lovely little granddaughter.
What do you feel looking back on that? I remember
it's bizarre, totally bizarre.
Do you remember the time when you said at one of my precocious peaks, "I love you dearly"?
Which one was that?
You said, "I love you dearly." But right now, I don't like you very much.
Yeah, well, you made that in that podcast, the last podcast, or the last
blog post there.
Your last blog post that you put in there, you mentioned that. I saw that too. Yeah,
I was thinking about that.
I do read what you write once in a while.
Do you read my blog, Dan?
I read your blog when it's in English, but I don't when it's in computerese. When it's in computerese, I don't read it. Okay. I do a quick scan. I say, "Dude, that's beyond my scope."
That's in C#.
C#, and I'm a flat man. So I mean, I am from the old school. I mean, I do my email. I do, I search the web for, bow and arrow sites and traditional archery sites and fishing sites, and check my CNN and my Reuters news.
And call me when it doesn't work.
And when the thing's broken, and I say, "Come fix this, you little crud." I mean, that's how you keep Grandpa happy, and then I'll come and build you a workbench or punch a hole in your wall and patch it up for you. It's trade-offs. That's what life is all about. We made trade-offs with you guys as kids.
Yeah.
You're going to be making trade-offs with your kids in the future.
I remember trying to get college figured out was a tough one.
That was tough.
How are we going to pay for college? And I ended up visiting colleges, but I couldn't figure out how to pay for it. So we ended up going to community college. And you remember that took quite a few years for me to finish my degree.
Well, you were working and going to school.
Is that important? I mean, I didn't graduate until I was.
Well, if you remember, you
dropped out of school. To be clear, you didn't make it.
I made
it
to high school. No, I didn't.
No, you dropped out of college, though.
Well, I was asked to leave one college, and then I chose to leave 1 or 2 others. I mean, I've got, I think, 3 years as far as credits. I think I've got 3 somewhere in my junior year.
Okay.
But then I had, just a multitude of training episodes with the fire department over the years. Mm-hmm. And then the equivalent on top of that, when I was in my late 40s, I went through paramedic school, which equates now to an associate's degree. So,
you have associates.
Well, I mean, I was a paramedic. I was, the fact that I have a quote associates back in the 70s when I was going to school, they didn't have, you had junior colleges or community colleges, but I don't even think they had degrees that they were issuing for some of the stuff that I was taking. I was taking, anthropology and.
Was that important? I mean, I remember you guys were, well, even for you teaching Josh and I, you were like, well, we'd like you to go to college. You guys didn't go to college until Mom went later in life.
Yeah, your mother went later in life and got her master's degree at 60. I mean, that's phenomenal.
Yeah. But growing up, I don't remember a lot of pressure. You guys were mostly pressuring us to be happy.
To be happy, do what makes you, feed your spirit. That was the main thing. Be a good person, be a good human being. Yeah. Treat people the way you want to be treated. If you go, we would like you to go to school. Yeah. The whole time we were encouraging you to go to school, to your face, then your mother and I would say, how in the heavens are we going to pay for this?
Yeah. Well, that's why it took 11 years.
Well, and we took a second mortgage on the house. And,
yeah, I remember that.
It was like, okay, we'll pay for half. You pay for half. Yeah. We'll help you out, with tuition, you pay room and board or whatever.
Got the same deal.
Joshua went on a 5-year plan to Oregon because he changed his major his junior year. That's fine. He paid for,
paid for half of it.
He had X number of dollars to make it stretch. And if he could stretch it for 5 or 6, whatever it took. And the same offer was to you. You were scheduled to go to Oregon. You were all ready to go.
I was scheduled to go to a couple of places.
Yeah. You'd been accepted to Oregon. And in July, you said, yeah, I just don't think I want to do this.
Yeah, it was a mess.
I don't know what I want to do.
I did that whole trip back east, and I visited Boston College, and I
had forgotten
I visited MIT.
I'd forgotten.
I just wasn't ready to go to school. I think now at 34, I'm mentally prepared to attend college. I think.
Well, yeah, but now you're teaching college periodically.
Well, yeah,
So I mean, that's you've done well. You finally continuing working and going to school at night. You got your bachelor's through, was it OIT or OT?
Oregon Institute of
OIT.
Technology. I was working at night. That was a good deal.
Yeah. And then turned around and the night of the graduation, they introduced you as the
newest professor.
What's the word?
Adjunct.
Adjunct. Yeah.
That means like part-time, not tenured.
Yeah. No pay or minimal pay. And, but still.
But it was fun. I love teaching.
So you graduate and become an adjunct professor, the same day. I mean, that was cool,
Yeah, it was a good day.
And maybe someday you'll teach again if that's what, feeds your spirit.
But that's what I do now. I mean, I would argue that that's who I am.
Well,
a teacher.
I would say that.
I mean, in everything I do. I feel like I'm a teacher
or an enlightener.
Well, an enlightener implies I have the answers, and I don't have the answers.
No. You're presenting options.
Ooh, I like that.
Isn't that enlightening?
I'm an option.
Enlightening isn't necessarily giving the answer. It's just giving one of many options, is the way I see it. Maybe my definition's wrong.
Well, to enlighten implies that there's darkness without me. And I would say...
Well, hey, need we say more?
No, I'm just saying that I just
Let there be light.
I thank you. I'm saying that I really like when I feel like I've got a perspective on something. Not necessarily all the answers, but a perspective. And I like to swap perspectives with people, such that they go, oh, I didn't think about it that way. And I get their perspective.
Now, see, your mother calls that, to me, she says, well, I'm playing devil's advocate all the time, and that's just a more basic version of the same thing, maybe.
We're people, right? We like
BSing.
Shooting the BS. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's fun. That's who we are. That's
as long as we are kind to people, and as long as people realize that we're not malicious. The intent is not malicious. It's always for enlightening purposes or presenting options. However, then that's...
But that's the challenge, though. I mean, to present things to people in such a way that you say, hey, here's another thing. If you like it, I wish you all the best. And if not,
because you make a mistake, okay, that's your loss.
Yeah, well, that's cool.
But no, it is important.
Well, that's how I was taught, though. I mean, back to those three teachers. They were very welcoming. They were welcoming us, the students, into the knowledge. It was like, hey, you guys, check this out. Maybe this will be something you'll enjoy.
Yeah. Look at it from this angle. Scott, you'll look at it from this angle.
Yeah.
Another,
Josh will look at it.
And they would encourage every one of them. And that was what really, Probasco, was that? Mrs. Probasco?
And she married, actually, the 8th grade English teacher married the 7th grade math teacher.
Right.
And they got married and they ended up coming to the wedding.
Yeah.
And then my 5th grade teacher who gave me the computer.
And they were special people.
They came to the
Yeah, excellent
she handled the
teachers,
wedding too.
great educators, and that's what.
Well, ultimately, I want to do that. I mean, when I retire, I'll go teach school.
Well, and like you say, you're educating. In a sense, you're educating
I
now.
guess.
And
You
that's
know what
good.
my job is?
I think I read it somewhere, but I mean, to repeat,
No,
enlighten me,
I don't
Scott.
need to tell.
Enlighten me.
No, I'm just curious. So sometimes one of the things that a lot of the listeners have said is like explaining to their parents what they do, like what it means to be a programmer,
Yeah.
is kind of a tough thing because, I mean, if I were building a bridge, that would make sense.
Yeah, you're building a bridge.
And then you look at it 20 years later and there's this bridge. Isn't that cool? But with us, I could write something amazing and I could show you today and you could say, hey, you made that? Cool. Like remember Glucopilot? I read that blood sugar program. You have Palm Pilot still.
My son handed me down. I'm still using a hand-me-down.
That's a very nice Palm.
One. I like
Palm 3.
I like Antiques.
Antiques. It's not an antique. It's a nice Palm 3.
It's a functional Palm Pilot, and I use it. Actually, I use it almost not every day, but I check it at least a couple times a week to see whose birthday I missed.
There you go. So you know how that.
By the way, happy birthday yesterday.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, Dad. You're only a day late. I appreciate that. Thoughtful. But you know that to conceive of an idea from scratch. I sat down. I said, "Wouldn't it be cool if?" Which is what you do with wood.
I mean, I try to do with wood.
But
you succeeded. I'm yet to succeed.
No.
Except with Isabel's crib.
It's the same thing though. You have a concept in your mind. You visualize. You plan, and then you construct. The only difference is that the chair and the table you made for my son will be around next year, while my software will be upgraded by someone else.
Yeah, but if I remember right, you asked me to make a second chair for your
you haven't made
youngest.
That yet.
Well, so yours is being upgraded. My work's being upgraded continually also.
I would like to see chair 2.0.
Now, is there going to be a third?
No more children.
No more children?
No, we're done.
Okay.
Thank you.
So just one more chair is all I got to do?
2 boys. I need one more chair.
Okay. I'll work on that.
Then you're done.
Okay.
Then you can rest.
Oh, no. I can just wait for the next request.
Well, Dad, I really appreciate you coming and having a podcast with me and hanging out today, and for raising me and for everything that you do. As I've said many, many times before, thank you. And this has been another episode of Hansel Minutes, and we'll see you again next week.